Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. We are your hosts, Moneca Pinkett and Andrea Rose Washington.
Hi, everyone. So just a little bit about this podcast. We are here to discuss all things Star Trek and beyond, from the new shows like Lower Deck, Discovery, and Picard, and even to delving into some of our rewatches of The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise, and maybe the movies. We'll see if we get there. But this is a podcast for all Star Trek fans, from whether you've been watching since before we've been born, or if you're new to it like we are for some of these shows. So stick around and join us on this journey of Star Trek and beyond. But before we jump in, let us give you a little bit of a history about how we got into Star Trek ourselves. So Moneca, would you like to go first?
Yes, I started watching Star Trek when I was in high school, so I'm starting to date myself here. And I used to watch it after school, and Sunday nights, I believe, it appeared. So I was really excited to watch it, and that was Star Trek Next Generation. It continued through college, and then I was so sad when the episode in the series ended, but then I welcomed Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and I continued with that journey. I just fell in love with it, and Data, Georgia LaFleur, all of the cast. I just adored it. I love the diversity within it.
Well, so for me, I got into it because of my dad. He and I, he would be in his office working, and I would just be in his office with him, and he would always have the TV on as background noise, which is probably where I get that from. And so I would just watch whatever Star Trek show was on. And so, and this was like mid 90s where I could actually start sort of remembering stuff. And so whether it was Next Generation or Enterprise or in the 2000s or Deep Space Nine, it was never a plan of which episode was on. It was just, oh, Star Trek's on. Oh, let me sit down and watch it with you. And I would never watch them in order, so I never knew when things happened. But that is how I got into Star Trek. And then even when I went to college and I graduated college, that was, I think, when the second Star Trek movie came out, the reboot. And for my graduation present, we went to the movies and we watched that, and me and my dad at the same time screamed, "Con!" So that was I grew up watching it with my dad, and so I am very excited to dive into this whole new show of Discovery and then everything else that comes after that. So this is exciting.
Interesting, because years ago when I first transitioned into Netflix, into streaming, I was able to stream Next Generation while on a stair climber at the gym. So it's interesting to watch those episodes again 15 years later, and it became part of my workout routine. So it's nice to see that it's back in a bigger form, and also now streaming on Paramount.
Yeah. One of the things, though, I will say for this show, Discovery, that we will delve into a little bit later in this episode. When it first came out, I was so excited because it was a Black lead in a fantasy show in space. And this is all I have wanted in my entire life was a female Black lead in a sci-fi TV show. Because in my mind, I live there. And so, but it was on CBS Access at the time. Now it's called Paramount Plus. But I was I'm not paying. I was why can't you have this on regular CBS? Because I don't want to pay for a streaming service. And then now, 4 years later, well, everything's a streaming service. So it's okay, I'm going to pay for it and I'm going to watch it. And now we get to talk about it because I haven't seen anything besides episode 1.
Yeah, I was puzzled by that at first because I would think that Paramount and CBS All Access at the time would want everyone to be able to view it. And I wasn't sure why it was restricted, but to boost their streaming platform. And I think the episodes were pretty expensive. So the other reason why I could think that they were, I think the streaming format allows for the director doesn't have to have time constraints.
That's true.
Like a half an hour episode, 45 minutes or an hour long. I believe there's some give in that.
That is very true. That's very true. I was just cheap. Because they gave the first episode away for free and I watched it. And I just knew that some way, somehow, the streaming service will be free down the road, and it never was. But I will say on Paramount Plus, it is cheaper than what CBS All Access was. I think they were like $9.99, and Paramount is $5.99 if you do commercials. And I was like, I'll pay that. But I'll let you go ahead and give everyone a little description of what this episode is about, and then what we're we talking about.
Sure, so. This episode, the first episode of Star Trek Discovery, is called The Vulcan Hello. And it starts between, right before we are introduced to Star Trek with Captain Kirk. So Star Trek, the original series, which I have to admit, and a complete disclaimer, I've only watched a few episodes. So I'm not as about that.
Disclaimer from me, I was not born until 1990, so I have not watched that one. And I do apologize. Please do not flame me in the comments. But yes, I have only seen from Next Generation and like from the 90s of Next Generation on. So it does not take away my love, but I'm not an original watcher. Yes. I'm sorry.
Maybe we'll revisit it as part of this podcast. We'll see.
We will, because we gotta watch everything now.
So just a portion of that, just want to give you like a timeline reference, the fact that this is like a prequel to everything else. So we're introduced to Vulcans, we're introduced to the Klingons, we're introduced to the whole world of Star Trek. And the tagline for this episode is "At the edge of the universe, discovery begins." And so I was drawn in by that because my husband's a science fiction author, and it's all about the galaxy and the universe in our household. And it's just really intriguing to see how this all like unfolds and develops. I'm in love with Michael Burnham. So let's chat about her for a bit.
She is a badass, and I love how sure of herself that she is, because in this episode it does give you a little glimpse of her childhood, and you can see and granted this is episode 1, so we don't know, like literally I do not know what's happening because I have not seen anything past episode 1. So I see her as such a badass who's not full of herself, but is sure of herself, who is doing something not to be right, but to do what is right. And I like that because I'm tired of seeing know-it-alls who don't really care to listen to other people's opinions. Like, even though that one character, Shura, was it Shura or Saru? Saru, sorry for pronouncing that wrong. Even though she and he don't always get along, she does still listen to him. So I like that she was such a sure of herself leader who also still listened to the advice of others and didn't just go off of what she thought she knew what was right.
Right. It's interesting because in the very first scene of the episode, she's on a journey with the captain, Giorgio, who I also
love. Like, I squealed when I saw her. I was like, ah!
And we're introduced to Michael Burnham and Giorgio with a conversation about Michael Burnham becoming captain one day.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're learning through that, like this first act of the episode, that Michael Burnham isn't quite ready for being a captain, and she doesn't even want to listen to the current captain, Giorgio, about what they should do as they're stranded on this island with, let's just say, aliens that look like predator creatures.
Predator creatures crossed with like an insect.
Yes. Because
They're peaceful though, but like they if I saw one in real life, I would get a broom.
But they were on like a humanitarian mission to help, I think, like release water from the well, like to help.
Yeah, to save them so they would survive the next drought that's coming.
Right. But a sandstorm was on its way, and they needed to get off of the planet, and could not radio signal back to the ship. So thank goodness Giorgio had a plan, and they were able to get out. And but we're introduced with some conflict there between the two of them, and that Michael Brown doesn't quite like to listen.
Not always. Not always. She does, but not really. Like I got it as she does listen. Like she'll take the advice, but if she feels like she's right, or if she feels like she's right, she might disregard it. Because I'll say this, at the end of this episode, she was right. They should have listened to her. And it wasn't reckless correction. She wasn't reckless in what she was trying to do. She was really trying to be proactive versus other leaders who are just trying to almost doing things recklessly. And she wasn't trying to do things recklessly. She was actually trying to save everyone's lives and was trying to do it the way the Vulcans did it, because technically she considers herself Vulcan. But yeah, I did see that little friction between her and the captain. Small, but it was there, yes.
So I'm glad you mentioned Vulcan, because my first glance, I noticed a little bit of like, I don't know what I call it, Vulcan tendency. So she has eyebrows that are kind of cut short, not pointed out. And but then later we're introduced to someone we're not exactly sure of and who gives her some guidance. And so she seems logical, like she wants to focus her make all decisions based on logic, but lots of times there's a lot of passion in what compared to Spock. Spock was didn't have as much feeling.
Well, because Spock was at least half Vulcan. She's human, I guess, an Earthling. She's human who was adopted by Vulcans. That's the feel I got, because that is the feel I got from like little Snapchat we had of her from when she was a kid. It made it look like her family was killed when the Klingons attacked that human Vulcan scientific thing. It was like it was really quick. I had to listen to it like the episode on the third time I caught what they said. So I believe she's actually human and raised by Vulcans. So that's why she still had to sort of fight to keep the emotions down, because Vulcans are able to shut it off, I guess, and she has to actively work to shut it off.
Right. There's a flashback scene in which she has a sharp, I don't know, bob. She has like so it's a sharp and then like tapered edges and a bob do. And I think she's going through some sort of history test, and she's unable to answer the questions once they get to a war that takes place between Vulcan and the Klingons. Yeah. And so you can tell that there's a little bit of tension there. I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. There's also, as part of this episode, she's encountering Klingons. And so we're wondering if her decisions are because of her past or logic.
So I definitely agree with that, because it does lend to what is her motive. And I feel like she's torn. I feel like it's probably 50-50 with her. 50-50 of knowing she's right, that it's Klingons. Because even when she goes back to talk to, I guess, her mentor, who like basically raised her, because when he admitted the fact that if someone had to die, I am happy, like relieved to know it's not. I'm satisfied that it wasn't you. Klingons only respect people who fight. So she went to him first before she decided to actually act. So I feel like it's part logic, and she would be lying if she was saying there's not a small part of her that is like, this is also revenge for my parents. But I like that she went for counsel before she made her decision, versus just making it off of pure emotion. She went to seek counsel because, yeah, she definitely feeling them. She definitely wants them to die because of what they did to her parents, but she also wants to make sure she's still correct in her actions, that she doesn't cause a bigger issue just to get revenge.
But
That's what I'm saying.
I have to admit, it was weird when she was just like, when she asked Giorgio permission to leave the bridge, like just like we're in the midst of this great big conflict with the Klingons, and I think that they have not interacted with the Klingons for a long time previous to that. And then she just left the bridge to seek counsel, but she didn't really disclose that. So it seems like she makes some decisions, and she's without really sharing the information with her colleagues there.
Yep.
Tough. And so they don't know what she's up to sometimes. They just have to trust her, and I think it's hard for them in that situation. What do you?
Oh, go ahead.
What do you think about Saru?
So,
okay,
Saru is a scaredy cat, in my opinion. He is. You always have that one friend in the group who's a pessimist. Like, and I won't even say, like, I normally like to try to say someone's a realist, but he's a pessimist. Like, he sees the absolute danger in everything. So it's like, dude, why did you join Starfleet? Like, why did you join a place that's going to go out and branch out and meet new worlds if your first act is to run first and ask questions later?
Right.
Like, I understood him more when he said that his species was like, they were bred, like they were prey, they were bred for slaughter, so like they know when death is coming. But you joined Starfleet. Right. Why did you do that if you were going to run first and ask questions later?
So,
but I sort of like him still.
Yeah. He has these, I don't know what to call them, gills that stretch out whenever there's danger. So it's like stranger danger kind of thing, and it like stretches out and curls under. And that's an interesting, I don't know, special talent to have. To be able to forecast whenever there's danger on its way, and that his body reacts in a different way. He's tall, he's lean, he's like complete opposite of Michael Burnham, which, also forgot to mention, it's interesting, we have a female protagonist that has a male first name, Michael.
Yes. Because that did like throw me up the first time I watched it. I was like, why did oh wait, that's her name. Okay. Because this is throwing me. And I do like it. It's different, but after you understand that that's her name, it's not confusing anymore. Maybe it was just me who was confused, but I was just like, why is she calling for Michael? Like that's her name. I was like, because I was used to it being Burnham, and how they switch back and forth between first name and last name depending on what's going on is very interesting as well.
Yes, that takes a little bit of getting used to. And they don't always use titles.
Yes, that's true.
That's a little hard to see the power hierarchy. So I'm still trying to understand Saru's role. Like, because they did introduce Michael Burnham as number one. So she's like lieutenant captain. Like,
he's the science guy, I think, like the chief science officer or something like that. I guess so. I guess this sort of ties into like the next point I had about the uniforms, because their uniforms are so similar and there's subtle differences. So far, because I don't know what the rest of the uniforms are going to look like. It's hard to like on the other ones you had the red shirts, the yellow shirts, the blue shirts, and like you didn't really know what everyone did, but if you saw what shirt they're doing, like okay, I can sort of tell where you are based on your shirt that you're wearing. And these new uniforms, well, I guess technically in this universe they're their old uniforms. I like them so much more. They're more sleek. They're more, in my opinion, sci-fi than just having different color shirts. But it does sort of make it hard unless you're paying attention to notice that the captain and Burnham both have blue and gold uniforms, and then the first captain, the Saru, has blue and silver. And so it's like a very subtle difference. And if you're not looking for it, you're going to miss it, because I missed it the first time.
And they don't have the rivets on the collar. Like in Next Generation, they had the little dots to instead of like stars, I guess, for our captains of today would have stars and stripes on their uniforms. They have in Next Generation, they had these rivets. So I agree with you. I like the uniforms. The gold, silver is subtle. But then I guess when they're landing on an island, you don't have to, or landing on a planet, you don't have to worry about like red shirts dying. You don't. Who will die?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about them dying right now. Okay, so can we talk about the Klingons? Because I was very shocked by this take on the Klingons. They looked more evil in this adaptation, like from based on the ones that we had from the other branch of Star Trek or the other shows of Star Trek to this version. Like if I saw the old Klingons, I'd be like, okay, you look different, but okay, whatever. But this version of Klingons, I was like, oh no. What is going on? Why do you look so much more evil? Maybe it's just the way that I'm seeing their makeup, because it's less humanoid. Like the other one, they had a more human features, and just like their foreheads were different. But on this one, it was just like, oh, okay, you're the bad guy. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Right. Yeah, it's a big difference between Worf and the look of Worf and then I also have seen a Star Trek original series episodes with Klingons, and they were green. They did not look like this at all. So this is interesting. I agree with you. They do look much more mysterious and evil. But there's interesting because also there's like an albino Klingon, and I don't know how to describe, but
he's albino. Like, yeah, no, like that's the best. He has no pigment. Like all the other Klingons are black, basically. And I say black as in like the color black, not like saying black people, like literally the color black. That is a Klingon. And this was white. This one was white, and you could tell that he was like he had no father's name, so I guess no one claimed him because he was albino. So no, yeah, you are correct. He was albino.
But then I also am interested in learning more about their culture, because their graves are on the exterior of the ship.
Yeah.
So that is interesting as well. And I don't remember learning about this as part of Next Generation, as much about their culture as like I've learned.
Well, I will say the Admiral, when the captain was talking to the Admiral, he did mention I think that they were fractured, like the Klingon government or whatever their ruling body was fractured. So maybe this fraction was keeping their dead on their ship because that's all they had together. Because even when the Klingon that Michael ended up killing, when he asked who was going to be the torchbearer, and the Klingon's brother came forward, there was like, I had to watch that so many times because I had to keep reading the subtitles, like, what is going on? He's talking about if the torchbearer does do whatever the torchbearer has to do, which I'm guessing they die, because otherwise, why would he be so afraid to be the torchbearer? I'm guessing he died. I don't know for sure. If it will call the other Klingons there, and he was like, "Well, what makes you think they would come for that?" And so I was saying, okay, maybe the Admiral was right that their government is fractured, that they aren't like, maybe what they are only what's on each ship is like their close group. Unlike the Federation, where the ship is just a cog in a whole big piece, the Klingon, their ship is the whole piece, and there's multiple governments of different fractions of the Klingon group. That's how I saw it when he explained that they were fractured, and then the other guy was afraid that people wouldn't come if he did the sacrifice. So I'm guessing the sacrifice is death, because I can't think of any other thing that would be that make him so hesitant to be the torchbearer.
It's interesting. So in this second act, the fleet notices a strange, I don't know, an unidentified object out there, and Michael Burnham volunteers to go out and lands on that object, only to find out that there's a Klingon behind her. And the Klingon kind of reminded me, just so sidebar, reminded me of the character in Lost in Space. I don't know if you've seen that, but
it's been a moment.
So that he didn't look like a Klingon during that encounter, but then we're introduced to conversations between the Klingons and their language. And so we're reading subtitles as we're learning more about the some conflict that they're having there. And then like Michael Burnham she attacks, and there's a battle between the Klingon that's on that object and her, and the ship is trying to get her back and can't. So that's an interesting second act, because that goes back to her the way in which she lost her parents, and she ends up killing that Klingon during that battle.
Because you can see in that scene that she wasn't really, like, she was hesitant, but she wasn't like really afraid until the computer told her it was Klingon, and then her entire like demeanor sort of like shifted just like that. I don't know if she meant to kill him at first, because she seemed shocked by it when she did tell everyone that she killed him. But granted, at the same time, if your life's in danger, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. And I'm sure she's taught in Starfleet not to attack. I mean, she was intruding on their space and
on their property. And the captain did say Starfleet never fires first, which in my opinion leaves you open for attack. So I don't know if I agree with that, Starfleet, but I understand it. No, I don't.
But then we hear later that that's kind of the opposite of what Vulcan, they learned to attack Klingons first, to seem as though they are a threat.
Yeah. And that's what her mentor told her, was to fire first, because they only respect that. They don't respect anything else. And so I'm very excited to see what I'm going to watch the next episode today, because I had to wait till after we recorded this till I could watch the next one to make sure I didn't, spill things that are going to happen in the next episode, because I have a tendency to do that. But the way this episode ended, because I know we're coming to a close soon. It ended with Michael sort of doing the Vulcan sleep move on the captain because the captain was refusing to fire first. So that goes back to what you said regarding how they do have that friction between them, because you can tell Michael respects the hell out of her captain. Like, you can definitely tell that she really does look up to her, really cares about her. But when it came down to really doing what was right, or what she believed was right, and even when it came to specifically just the Klingons, because I feel like if it was anyone else they would have encountered, she would have never caused that friction between her and her captain. But because it was the Klingons, and even her mentor told her, this is what Vulcan did because this is what Klingons do, she did the Vulcan sleep move that didn't work because she's not Vulcan. But she was proven right at the very end of the episode that all the other ships that they called were Klingons. And now you end the episode with a unknown of a cliffhanger of what's going to happen now. Is Starfleet going to show up, or are they about to get attacked by all these Klingon ships, or are they going to run away? But it sort of gives her that small little vindication of, I am correct. I was correct. Klingons were coming. Now we're screwed. And then boom, credits. Why did you do this to me?
I think we're also introduced with cloaking.
Yes.
So I think that's new. And I am surprised that Michael was not court-martialed after taking down the captain. I just want to say.
So I was surprised too, but because it was only like, it happened all within like the last 3, 4 minutes of the episode, I'm very shocked to see what happens on the next episode regarding that, because technically she was wrong, but she was right. She was wrong in what she did, but she was right in why she did it. As in, like, what she told the captain was correct. Klingons are coming. We have to act first. So her actions were wrong. Her actions do deserve a court-martial, but she was correct, and the captain didn't listen to her. So she has to be punished, but does she deserve it? It's like, you don't know.
And she took control of the bridge, and I just need to say that it's interesting what we'll see if she gets away with it and how much she's reprimanded for that. But that's an interesting way to introduce the protagonist, started out the journey with Georgiou to they started out on a desert planet bonding, and now
and the captain saying, hey, you deserve your own ship, to I'm stealing your ship, technically, but not really, but technically, just for this one thing, it's still yours, but I'm going to steal it for this moment.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I am very, very excited to see what we have 3 seasons so far, and I think they just got renewed for the 4th. So the 4th season is starting soon. I'm very excited to jump into this whole Star Trek Discovery, and then seeing where this leads, and then watching Picard, because that was gonna make me cry. Because don't hate me, but Picard was better than Kirk. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. I prefer Picard, and I understand that Kirk was the first one. I really do. I do. But even when it comes to the Star Trek movies, I preferred Picard over Kirk. So I'm very excited to see him again. But I am very excited to start this journey. Where do you think the rest of the season will go? Do you think there'll be a war between the Klingons, or do you think it was just a big anticlimactic first episode?
I think we'll learn more about the Klingons, and I think there's going to be more conflict between Georgiou, Saru, and Michael. Mm-hmm. I also want to learn more about the rest of the ship, because it's USS Discovery, not the Michael Burnham and Georgiou show. So there's a whole lot more. interested in finding out more about the ship, and they have to transition to USS Discovery. So we'll see.
That I didn't even think about that, but yeah, they're not on the Discovery, but the show is called the Star Trek Discovery. So okay, I am thinking that there may be a war. I don't know. There at least is going to be a battle. I don't know what's going to come of this battle, but for how they set up this entire first episode, there has to be a battle between Starfleet and the Klingons. I do think that Michael and Giorgio relationship is going to be fractured. And I feel like the captain is going to be more hurt by it than Michael.
Yeah.
I think because Michael, in the back of her mind, knows what she did was right because she listened to basically outside of Starfleet's command to do what she did because Klingon doesn't play by Starfleet's rules. So I feel like their relationship is going to be fractured. I think they're still going to be friends, but they'll never be like they were. And I think it's going to hurt the captain more than it's going to hurt her emotionally because she's going to know what she did was right. And the captain's going to feel sort of betrayed a bit. That's what I'm thinking. I hope they still stay friends. And I hope that Michelle, I think it's Michelle, right? That's the actress's name who plays the captain. I hope that she stays on because I haven't really Googled anything because again, I'm trying to watch this with fresh eyes. So it's really hard for me, people, because I read spoilers for everything. I am hoping she stays on because I love her as an actress and I love to see her I'm happy to see her in something in sci-fi versus more than the fighting roles that I always see her in. So it's very interesting to see her in a sci-fi role. So I really hope that she stays around. If there is a transition to the Discovery, I do hope she goes too, because I really want to see her. I really want to see them work through this. There is going to be a fraction. I think it's probably going to last all of season 1, but I do want them. Like, who doesn't want 2 women in control? Like, I want them. So, like, they're like us. I want them. They're 2 women in control. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. Any last thoughts before?
No, I think it's a perfect title, Star Trek Discovery. I think it's a discovery of lots of different character journeys. And maybe it's not necessarily about the ship. Maybe the title is not based on a ship per se, but just character arcs and coming to age
within themselves. Yeah, going deep. I see you.
Yes, so I'm excited, and I'm excited to work with you on this podcast as we continue it. This is so exciting.
So please follow us, subscribe to this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our channel so that way you can see us when we post new content, new videos. And then tell us what you think in the comments about episode 1. Do not spoil it yet because I have not watched episode 2. So let us know in the comments what you think. Follow us, subscribe, and look out for the next podcast. I'm Andrea, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.